Hello, everyone. Welcome to today's podcast. Today we have a guest from CariGenetics. It's Dr. Carika Weldon. So, Carika, she is the founder and CEO of CariGenetics, and also they are a partner of Pond. So, welcome, Carika.
Thank you. I'm super excited to be here today.
Yeah. So, Carika, so I know you've been working on CariGenetics for a while. I just kind of curious, like, what your funding journey looks like, and also why you started CariGenetics.
Yeah, so actually, I didn't always want to have a company. That was not my initial intention when the journey started. So just to give some context, I'm from Bermuda. I'm a trained biochemist and really fell in love with genetics. And I lived in England for about 12 years. And I get called back to Bermuda for COVID because I have a
Hmm.
PhD in RNA science and I'm kind of like chucked into the deep end of like the public health response. And
Hmm.
that was like, just a journey in of itself. And during that period, I saw two big things. Number one, when it came to the different versions of the virus that were coming out, like we didn't really have the capacity to test. And that was something I did every day when I was working at Oxford. Like I was in charge of sequencing technology. If we had that, we would have been able to like know in a matter of hours. And it
Hmm.
just really stood out that like we just didn't have what we needed in Bermuda, and actually it was not just Bermuda, it was the wider Caribbean region. And that was impacting how we could respond because we didn't know like what strains we were dealing with. So that was the first thing that kind of like caught my attention. And then the second thing was when the vaccine came out, right? And I think
Yeah.
globally there was a lot of concern around like, is this thing even like safe for everyone? But what we experienced was in Bermuda, we're about like 55% black and about 35 to 40% white. And like all of the white Bermudians signed up in like week one. Like
Oh, wow.
90% of them, like they were ready. But black Bermudians were very hesitant. It was about 50% in week one. And when I would speak to them, because again, I was like the scientist, the RNA scientist, so would, engage with the community, and they were like, well, this hasn't really been tested on people like me to know
Yeah.
it's safe. And I was like, that's a very valid concern. But I was like, that's not just for this vaccine. Actually, all of medicine is in the same boat where the medicine you're using really hasn't always been tested to see if it's safe for people like you. And the sheer like fear in their face, they were like,
Mhm.
what? And I'm like, yeah, sorry to be the bearer of bad news. I realized that, something had to be done to like make sure that we can be included, and that it was something that it was long overdue. And
Mhm.
so that's really where CariGenetics came from. And initially, like I said, I didn't want it to be a company. I wanted it to be like a nonprofit research institute that, is what I was used to as an academic. But I got some advice from a very well respected businessman here. He's basically said, look, the third sector, so like all the charities and nonprofits, they have been through it for COVID. Like they're still going through it. There really
Mhm.
isn't money to sustain this thing if it's a nonprofit. But there is a potential business case here, and actually being a business, you would have access to investor capital. And I was like, I'm not sure. And I definitely was
Mhm.
like really against it for a while. It took me 5 months to come around to the idea. I
Yeah.
just didn't want to have a company. I don't know. But I realized, you
Why
know
you were
what?
against at the time?
I
Why you
don't
were
know. I
against the
just,
idea?
you know what I think it is? As an
Uh-huh.
academic, like, you're not really, you kind of look down on like
Yeah, making
companies,
profit
and
on
you,
that. Yeah. Yeah.
yeah, and you feel like I felt like I was crossing over to the dark side,
Uh-huh.
like, oh my God, I'm gonna like have a company. And I just felt like it was like the wrong thing to do, like, that's
Hmm.
how I felt. Like I shouldn't be making money from this, but at the same time, I know I had to kind of realize, number one, this is a really big mission,
Hmm.
and we do need to be sustainable. And if it means we sell services and we, have a product and we make money to do that, that shouldn't be a problem.
Hmm.
So yeah, I finally gave in after 5 months and said, you know what? I agree. There should be a company, and also, there's a established history of other companies generating data and making money with, different clients like pharma and big tech, and I was like, you know what? Why can't we do that? Like, we should have a piece of
Yeah.
that pie too. And so that's where we started, and I incorporated CariGenetics in September of 2022.
Wow.
And We had no money. It was just me and a
Mhm.
CariGenetics t-shirt that got printed. And then we officially, became operational with some staff January of 2023. So we're
Mhm.
at the four like the 4 year anniversary almost now of like
Oh, wow.
officially opening. And we've had 3 full years of operation.
Wow. Congratulations. So you
Thank you.
said, it took 5 months from being not sure to yes, I want to do this. What happened, during that 5 months that, made that,
Yeah.
yeah.
Well, I mean, I had a few like because I had resigned from government. I was taking some time off, and it was my birthday, and I was like, I need to just relax. So I
Mhm.
was just enjoying life at that point.
Yeah.
But then again, I guess it really hit me like, I think what actually happened, now I think back, it was something that came out from the WHO
Hmm.
that said it was like a white paper, I believe, on like genetic testing would make healthcare like safer for everyone or something like that. Like having
Hmm.
genetics included would be good for everyone. And I
Yeah.
was like, oh my God, they're absolutely right. And so I realized then like it was bigger than me. This had to be done. And this was the way that we had to make it sustainable. Let's go for it.
Wow. Okay. So the whole founding background of CariGenetics was because of COVID, was it because of vaccination? But what is CariGenetics doing today?
Yeah. Our mission is to make medicine and healthcare safe for everyone.
Hmm.
So although we're really focused on making sure the Caribbean is included because we tend to be
Hmm.
left out of these conversations. I mean, a lot of people don't realize how big the Caribbean is. They think I've done like a few conferences and talking, and I ask the audience like, how big do you think the Caribbean is? And they're like, 100,000. I'm like, no, my little one, small little island is just about that size. There's actually
Hmm.
47 million people in the Caribbean. We're like double the
Wow.
market size of Australia. Like we're pretty decent size.
Wow.
And so number one, I'm like advocating for that.
Hmm.
But also, what we're really saying is like the Caribbean, we're like a genetic melting pot of the world. We
Hmm.
have pretty much every ethnic group you can think of in the Caribbean. And in
Hmm.
some places, we're mixed with other ethnic groups you probably haven't seen elsewhere. And so, actually, studying the Caribbean is really efficient to get a global picture of what's happening. And so
Mm.
that's really what we're doing is making sure that we can have diverse research so that everyone is included. And when drugs are designed, it's with everyone in mind.
Right. So CariGenetics pretty much is trying to it's basically it's on a mission. It's on a mission, like you described, and how you can promote the Caribbean community, to more people. And also, because we have tested the product. So do you want to elaborate a little bit more about, what the product of CariGenetics is and why you think,
Yeah.
people want to use it or what can benefit them?
Yes. So, I mean, one of the big things that also came out of the pandemic is
Hmm.
I think a lot of focus prior was on like reacting to
Hmm.
Medicaid, like to when you have a medical issue and like, not worrying about it until it was a real issue versus after was like, okay, we need to prevent things because
Hmm.
actually it saves us time and resources and it's better care if we get ahead of it. And I think what I've seen is, the real surgeons of wellness, right? Like, let's
Hmm.
focus on wellness and making sure people are healthy in their day-to-day lives. And so what we did is made sure that we can actually make wellness more accessible for people. And we
Yeah.
have the CariGenetics app, which is a wellness app. And so what that looks like is you can download the app for free on any of the stores, Apple Store, Google Play Store, and you fill out a questionnaire that, some questions you're probably expecting, but some are probably not what you're expecting.
Hmm.
And it gives a pretty good estimate of, based on your lifestyle, what is your biological age? So we're bringing in this concept that how old you are on the calendar, like when your birthday was, is one thing, but how well you've been taking care of your body for your whole life is actually impacting the aging of your body.
Yeah.
What does that look like? And so that's what our app initially does, free of charge. You can also scan your face, and we find people really like this. You can scan your face, and it will tell you how old you look.
Mm.
Oh yeah. So, we've had some people really enjoy that feature because I've seen like and it's pretty accurate. It's using obviously different points on your face and algorithm that has been designed. on like how old do you look, and it also gives you a breakdown of different like skin features, so like hydration, like bags under your
Mm,
eyes, and translucency, and gives you like some scores, so you can actually tailor your skincare based on, what's the health of my skin.
mm,
So those are some free features that we have, and then the next step is that you can actually provide a saliva sample, and it will give you over 160 traits around your lifestyle, around fitness, nutrition, your skincare, your hair care, even some personality traits, and also ancestry if you like that too.
mm,
And you could also opt in to actually see, not just from the questionnaire, which is predicting, but
mm.
actually look at your genetics and see how old is your body.
Wow. So how long did it take you to build it?
So we've worked with some really amazing partners. So when it comes to science, it's all about the community. There's
Yeah.
a lot of work that has been done. Like each of these traits has required groups of scientists to actually find them and validate them. And, so we're standing on the shoulders of some really awesome scientists and this field that has been around for at least about 15 to 20 years. But we're really excited that we're able to bring it all together in a really easy handheld way that the average person can access and understand exactly what do they need to do. So I think we're in a
Yeah.
world as well now where there's so many different like health fads, right? Like you got the Atkins diet, you got a keto diet, you got
Yeah.
all these different diets, and it's like, well, which one do I do? Like, what's the right one for me? Because not
Yeah.
everyone is built the same. And so, what we're really pushing and exposing everyone to is personalized wellness. That your
Mm,
journey should be tailored to you and how your body needs wellness versus just a trend.
yeah. Do you plan to give recommendations later on after you have the results of the different people? Like, for example, if someone's biological age is a little bit like older, then do you have a recommendation for whatever the nutrition is, or any type of recommendation that you tend to build, or what is the next for cariogenetics in your mind?
Yes. So actually that's built in already. So
Hmm.
when you do the test, every result it gives you like what does this mean? What
Hmm.
do I do? So we already give recommendations because actually just finding out results isn't that helpful, right? You need to know what does
Hmm.
it mean? What do I have to do next?
Yeah.
And within the app, there is also an AI health coach. We find that's really, really important because it's so much information that's
Hmm.
new, right? We don't expect anyone to be experts on genetics. I will say as well that the AI does not go out to the internet. It stays within the app, so it's very much contained. But what it can do is you can ask it questions like, well, can you
Hmm.
make me a 4-week action plan of what to do next? And it'll be able to
Hmm.
decipher all your data and give you a very clear picture. It can even tell you what food to buy. It can give you a shopping list. So we're really big on those recommendations because you want to know what to do next. In the future, we're actually looking at bringing in some product recommendations on like different supplements and vitamins and minerals because
Yeah.
again, we have a whole section on like your vitamins and minerals and what you're potentially deficient in based on your genetics. But then it's like, well, what do I need to like? How do I fix it? So we're really mindful that that's something that people want. And in the next 6 months or so, you should be able to see within the app that you can actually like just buy within the app whatever's missing and be able to get what you need.
Oh wow. Is it only limited to Bermuda, or is open to everyone globally?
This is global. So that's the beauty
Okay.
of this, right?
Yeah.
Although our research is focused on the Caribbean and we're
Hmm.
headquartered in Bermuda, so we want to make sure that the Caribbean's not missed out. Everything that
Yeah.
we're doing is for everyone, right? Again, our mission is to make medicine available and working
Yeah.
for everyone. So this app is global. When we actually like did our official kind of like launch of this, I was
Hmm.
actually at an international conference in South Africa, and we
Yeah.
tested over almost 200 women from about 28 different countries. It was a women's leadership conference, and they all enjoyed it. And so this is not just for any particular type of person. It's for everyone. So anyone that's interested, like right now, you can download it in any country of the world and
Yeah.
experience the CariGenetics app.
Yeah. So I noticed that there's a list of the global partnership that CariGenetic has built in the past 4 years. So you have FedEx, you have Bermuda College Foundation, you have pretty much different kinds of organizations in the world, no matter it's going to be healthcare, or can be some biomedical research institutions. How did you build everything from ground up by yourself, with a team in the past four
Yes.
years? It's a lot, I feel.
Yeah, it is. And I think like the biggest thing I would say is really understanding what the mission is and being able to
Hmm.
communicate that clearly has been a huge thing.
Hmm.
When you say, look, we want to make healthcare available for everyone,
Yeah.
everyone's on board with that. You know,
Yeah.
it's not something that you have to kind of explain. We all went through the same tumultuous time during the pandemic. So we
Hmm.
understand exactly what the power of this could be.
Yeah.
And yeah, it's just about working with people that see the vision as well and want to bring it to the masses.
Hmm.
Yeah.
So from your observation, because you deal with those healthcare issues, from the retail side pretty much every day, you work on it, and
Yeah.
I just feel like, do you think, or do you feel like people pay enough attention to their own healthcare these days?
I think it's not where it should be, but it's getting better.
Hmm.
And I
Yeah.
think that's why we need to have these conversations because
Uh-huh.
I think like what we're used to is for the most part, like we're waiting for like it all to break down and like, fall apart before we're like, oh my God, let me think about this. And I think with the pandemic, it actually, number one, opened our eyes that
Hmm.
healthcare impacts everyone. Like
Yeah.
you can be as rich as you like,
Yeah.
it will still get you. So I think that's one thing that's really helped to like kind of opens everyone's eyes. But at the same time, I know for even from a cost perspective, people have now realized, oh, well, if I actually like, get these annual checks and I'm on top of it, I'm not gonna have a huge bill for some procedure at the end, which I can't manage. You know what I mean? So I think
Hmm.
it's becoming more commonplace. Are we where we should be yet? No. I think we still need to have these conversations and it needs to become more commonplace, but we're getting there. It's getting better for sure.
Yeah. Makes sense. Do you feel like it's accelerating, or it's just like, because like these days I've seen a lot of like healthcare products, people are, these are physical products people are trying to sell. There's a lot of like brands from the healthcare sector. So I kind of
Yeah.
curious, like what the trend you are seeing as a founder by building this healthcare app these days.
I think longevity is a
Uh
very
huh.
popular topic. It's
Yeah.
something that everyone is thinking of
Uh huh.
because, and not just like living longer, but living longer healthier. So, like,
Yeah.
living longer and not needing any medication or intervention. It's
Hmm.
become more and more popular. I've found like you have blue zones, and there's a conversation around like just from a nationwide perspective, like how can we have more countries having more healthy people? Now, on the flip side of that, the
Hmm.
the other piece of that puzzle is if you have people living longer and healthier, they're gonna need a pension for longer. So that's some
Yeah.
conversations that's happening as well.
Yeah.
I know in Bermuda, our like age of living has increased, and so you know,
Hmm.
compared to where it was when they designed the pension scheme, so that conversation also needs to be had. But I think the biggest trend I've found is number one, people care about the longevity a lot more, and they're thinking about it and talking about it.
Hmm.
But also I think with like the whole pandemic and getting a result that is not that great and can impact your work, can impact your travel, can impact all these things. I like to believe people got more used to the fact that look, I need to know this. I'd
Hmm.
rather know it than not know it. And I think people are more, in my opinion, more conscious of that and are wanting to know, like, let me give me all the information so I can make a decision versus like, let me just hide in a corner and pretend it's not happening. So I think, it's a good place for us to be, but we still have a long ways to go so that, as a community, as a world, as a society, we're all on the same page.
Right. Makes sense. So, i- if we look back to the previous 4 years of your startup journey, as a founder, do you have any aha moment or anything that you have identified as counterintuitive? So, for example, let us say, for me personally, I found so many things. The time when I started working on, this is not what I planned, or the truth is, if we want to do this well, previously we thought we're gonna do this XYZ.
Hmm.
But the thing is, actually, is the opposite. It's something that is kind of counterintuitive. in a way. Do you have this kind of moment?
I did, and I think it's something I've had a few conversations about with other founders as well. When
Uh-huh.
you get into like running, creating a company, a startup, there's kind of this big hype around like raising loads of money.
Hmm.
And you feel like that's actually the metric of like how good you're doing is, can you raise them? Like, can I set new
Yeah.
records
I
to
can
like
relate.
raise the most money ever? You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And I got actually to a point where it kind of hit me, and I was like, actually, that shouldn't be the metric, like, because that's also
Hmm.
not sustainable. And, the more you get into it, you realize, like, big companies that you looked up to were never profitable, meaning
Hmm.
they never were making money that was surplus to what they were spending. And you're
Hmm.
like, I was like, wow, I never like that. I didn't anticipate ever realizing that. And I then got to the notion that, well, actually, I just want this to be sustainable. So I don't really need to be breaking records. And, if we do, that's great. But
Yeah.
ultimately, I want to be able to be sustained off of like our own revenue
Yeah.
and become a company that is just functioning because of the great services we're offering. And so it does initially feel a bit counterintuitive because again, when you start, you're like, oh, I gotta raise like a billion gajillion dollars. But
Hmm.
actually that's not necessarily a good thing.
Yeah.
Because that's not free money.
Yeah.
And you need to be able to sustain, that's not sustainable. So I think that was
Yeah.
probably the biggest moment for me. And so now, I've had conversations even with our, existing investors, like we're really focused on revenue. Like we made our first
Yeah.
million last year, so that was
Hmm.
exciting.
Oh, wow. Congratulations. This is
Yes,
a big movement. It's a big achievement.
it's a big moment. So that was in
Yeah.
our third year of operation. And so this year we're
Hmm.
trying to triple that. And it really is empowering because, obviously we have some really amazing investors, but they're not like, you know,
Hmm.
they're not they're limited in what they have, right? They're not like a bottomless pit of money. And so
Yeah. Yeah.
being able to generate your own money is very empowering. And anyone that wants to get into, having your own company, I would just tell you from now, like, make sure that when you build it, you're building it to be sustainable
Yeah.
and making your own revenue.
Yeah. Wow. So if you happen to be a founder listening to this podcast, this is the wisdom here. So don't fall into the trap that you're gonna always raise more. It's kind of like it's a liability behind the scenes. So just don't fall for that. This is from, Karika. So Karika, one last question from my side. So apparently, CariGenetics, like you said, is targeting a global mission, not just Caribbean community, and it's designed to be global. The go-to-market approach and the strategy is also global. Like, I'm kind of curious, like, when you are going to the market, with CariGenetics globally, what is the friction that you're encountering?
It's a good question. I think the biggest is regulation, actually. So, like,
Hmm.
literally right now, we have, every country has their own regulation, and genetics is, you know, not a walk in the park. So we have to make sure that we're compliant with what each country needs. Um, and you really need to understand that before you make a move, right? I think that's probably the biggest thing. Is there's definitely a real desire.
Hmm.
There's a real like, want to have these types of genetic tests so that people can be better informed. But it's just about making sure that you tick those boxes of regulation and following the local laws because once you go outside of your country, it can be very different.
Yeah, I can
Yeah, I
relate.
think yeah, I think that's probably it. I mean, there's a lot of like global labs doing testing, so actually
Hmm.
getting the data is not really much of a problem. It's really around just making sure that all ducks in a row so that you're ticking all the boxes so you don't get yourself in trouble.
Yeah, okay. So it's time to wrap up. So, everyone, this is Karika, the founder of CariGenetics, and CariGenetics is on a mission to facilitate and accelerate global healthcare adoption. And also, if you haven't downloaded it, just go to your app store. This is mine. Just go to the app store and just download the CariGenetics, and I will put the name behind, below the screen, so that you can just download your own version and test out your age and have recommendations of your own healthcare and to improve your life. So everyone, this is today's Dr. Carika Weldon. So Carika, thank you so much for joining us, and also thank you so much for sharing what CariGenetics is doing and what your journey is. Thank you so much.
Thank you. It's been great to talk to you today.
Yeah, it's great to talk to you.